So let's get started on the main contents, which is the exploratory online seminar number 70, how to use the exploratory series, the part 1 chart. So the part 1 is basically something about data visualization by using charts. And the part 2, which I'm planning to do next week, is going to do about data wrangling. Part 3 is analytics, and part 4 is the communication part, which is basically how to create dashboard and notes. Okay, so let's start with part 1 chart. And so the chart in exploratory has a lot of features, and sometimes, it's great, but sometimes it might be confusing, especially when you're just starting out the exploratory. So in this seminar, I'd like to introduce some of the key features that help you visualize your data more effectively. So these are the things like 1 to 9. But before we get started, a couple things. Well, you need the data, right? So you want to import the data, and then once you get the data, you want to browse by using a summary view with exploratory and see what the maybe there might be too many missing values, or what are the distribution of the data, what type of the values are in the data, kind of stuff. And then one important thing before getting into the data visualization or using chart is make sure the data type is correct. If it's not, then you want to fix that as soon as possible. I mean, sometimes you don't have to, but I suggest you quickly fix that before even getting visualization. And then also one of the features, but also kind of a framework of the whole exploratory is a chart pen that I'm going to explain in a bit. Okay, so let's do these 3 things. First, you want to import the data. In this seminar, I'm going to use Airbnb New York data as a sample data. So each row represents each listing, or apartment, or house, or whatever the property. And then there are attributes about the property. So those are the row, and this is about the New York. So there should be the information about which borough, like Manhattan, or Brooklyn, and so on. And also there are price information for each property, so on. Okay, so to find this data, you can actually get this data 2 ways to do it. One is when you open the exploratory. Here, when you click on the plus button, in the project, then there is something called data catalog. So when you go into data catalog, and this connects to our server, exploratory.io, where anybody can publish their data and share. And if you share privately, then only the person who you invited can see it. But if you share publicly, then anybody can see it. And obviously, we share a lot of data there in a public way, so anybody can access. And one of the data we want to use is this Airbnb. So I'm going to just type Airbnb and then try to find that data. There's a second Japanese version of it. This is for Tokyo. But second one here is the Airbnb listing data for New York City. This is the data that we want to use. So when I click on this import button, this shows me the preview of the data. And then I'm going to just click on the save button. This is going to download the data from exploratory.io, which is our server. So I'm going to just go on without changing the data frame name. So this is the default state. Sometimes if you're using exploratory within the organization, which has some proxy networks setting, then you can actually set the proxy in the exploratory so that you can access to external servers even when you're in an organization. But sometimes there's some kind of a weird configuration. For some reason you can't access. In that case, then you can go to the exploratory.io, our server, our website, log in, and then what you can do is, I'm going to just go to English mode. Okay, and here is a search, and then it says search data. Okay, and then this is a website, and then you can do a similar thing. Basically, I'm going to just type Airbnb right here, and then click on the enter key. And then There it is. And sometimes this language setting, default is English. So most of the times there's no problem. But if it's Japanese, this one might not show up. But anyway, so if it's language Japanese, sorry, English, and then Airbnb is a search keyword, then the first thing you see is Airbnb listing data for New York. And click on it, and it will show you the preview of the data in a summary view and also the table view. What you want to do is at your right-hand side top, there's a download button. And then is the first one, the CSV. When you click on this, and then it will download on your local PC. Once it get downloaded, then click on this plus button, and then there's the file data. And then you can select the CSV and then import that data. Or you can just drag and drop into the Exploratory to import the CSV data. I think that's the easiest way to do it. Anyway, so now that we have the data, what we are looking at here is 42 columns, 10,000 rows. Okay, and then we see a bunch of columns here, and then we can go to the table view, and then you can see that kind of table view. It's more like an Excel kind of view. Let's go back to summary view now. Here, based on the data types, underneath the column names, there's a numeric or character. These are the data type. There's a date data type as well. And then depends on each data type, then it shows a different type of the chart. So if it's a numeric or date, then it shows you like a histogram, right? So for example, here is like dividing by like 10 buckets or 10 groups, and then each group, like how many rows are there. So that's a histogram view. And then like you see a bunch of metrics such as median and mean and so on. But when you go to the character data type column, then you see the different information. For example, maybe I'm here, neighborhood group, we have 5 values like Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, and so on. And then we have like 4,338 rows for the Manhattan. So for simple visualization like this, like you don't even have to go to the chart. This is it. I mean, your job is done, right? Or you can click on this chart button to create the chart, basically the similar chart like this. But we want to go to more than that, more than what we see here. So like that's why like this seminar is prepared for. Okay, so but very important thing is that once you see it, and then sometimes what you want to check is here. Okay, so this one is 34% of the data is NA, which is missing value. So when you go to the table view, you see like nothing there, or like it says NA or something, no value there. So if that's okay, that's fine. But if you think that's some kind of error, or somebody made a mistake or something, like you want to find out why. But anyway, another thing that it's really important thing to do is something like this. So we know this information is like it says price. So it's got to be, let's say, like $150, but it's a numeric values, right? So I think when you import this type of the data, when you have the currency symbol, Exploratory thinks this is character data. But we as a human, or we as a those who understand this type of data, this is numeric. Or at least we want to consider this as a numeric values. And then that's key. Otherwise, you can't calculate, for example, like average or total, that kind of stuff, right? So you want to fix this data type quickly as early as possible. So in this case, I noticed that like I can this one, the character, I want to convert this one to numeric. And to do, easy way to do is from the column header menu, and then there's a change data type. And here under that is a convert to numeric. So you can select this to convert to numeric data type. And you can do one by one, but sometimes you want to do, like, for example, in this case, I see similar columns, like weekly price, monthly price, and cleaning fee. All of them are something to do with the numeric values. So I want to fix all of them together. Okay. So from price, I'm clicking on the shift key, holding on the shift key, and then select cleaning fee. And then now I have selected 5 columns together. Then go back to the column header menu, change data type, and convert to numeric. And then I get this UI, left-hand side, where you can see like which columns are selected and what are the calculation type or whatever the operation is going to be done, the converting data type to numeric. I'm going to just click on run button, and then it basically does our operation now, but converting the data type for these 5 columns. Once it's converted, so for example, in this case, price, I can see like from a minimum value 0 to max value 10,000. Median value is 105 and the mean value or average is $159. Okay, so these are the things, for example, before the conversion, I had no idea like what would be the average because price was considered as a character, but now that we have price as considered as numeric, we have these metrics, and also not really useful in this histogram, but it looks like most of the price are actually between the 0 and 1,000 range. Okay. So the data seems like okay for now, enough for now. So now let's get into chart features. So the things I like to start covering. Oh, sorry. I have one more thing actually, chart pin. So this is it's once you get used to it, it's very useful. But if you're just starting out exploratory, you get confused, and we get some questions because some users don't understand this chart pin. So I like to introduce how this chart pin works quickly. So pin is like the kind of pin you use to fix something, right, on the wall or on the clothes or whatever. So that the same concept. Okay, but use pin to fix a chart to a particular data wrangling step. What is data wrangling step? Which data wrangling step is on the right-hand side. We already did that. I have converted the data type. So then it adds a new step at the right-hand side. So that we call data wrangling step. Data wrangling means data transformation or data cleanup, and whatever the operation you do, it automatically recorded at the right-hand side. Okay, so now this screenshot, the chart is pinned to the step 3, even though there are 5 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but the chart is pinned to the step 3. Like my case, we created this second step, right? And if I go to the chart, and automatically this chart pane is pinned to the step 2. And you can move between chart step 1 or step 2. What makes a difference? Well, the chart is now referencing to the data from step 2. What is the data from step 2? Well, the step 2 has converted those 5 columns to numeric data type. If this pin is this chart is pinned to the step 1, then that means when I select the price, for example, here at under the value, if I select the price right now is a numeric data type. It's like a green pound icon, but it could be like a blue, this kind of like a character icon, which it says A. Okay, so let me just use a slide quickly more. So right now, let's say like this chart you're creating, but it's pinned to the step 3. Basically, you're visualizing the data from step 3. That means it's ignoring anything from the step 4 or step 5. But sometimes, hey, I have added the extra, maybe they say calculation or something in the step 5, and I want to bring that data. I want to visualize that data. And in that case, you can drag and drop the pin to step 5. And once the chart is pinned to the step 5, then now you can see whatever the data from step 5. It can be the new columns, or it can be the filtered data, can be the summarized data, whatever the data wrangling you do. Okay, and this is a very most common question from the users. Hey, I can't see the new columns I have added. I added the new calculation, but I don't see that in the chart view. And in that case, most of the time, somehow the calculation was added at, let's say, like step 5, but the chart is pinned to step 3. And that's why you don't see that new columns. So in order to fix it, you can just drag, drop that pin from step 3 to step 5. Once you move it, then you should be able to see the new column that you have created at a particular step. Okay, so that's a chart pin. So okay, so all this stuff that before getting into is already done. So let's visit each basic chart features. These are not all the chart features, but I think these are very common chart features that are very useful. So starting with the limit values. Okay, so let's start creating a chart. So here, I'm gonna start creating a bar chart. And I like to see how many listing or how many properties are by each neighborhood. Okay, so the x-axis, I'm gonna assign this neighborhood. And then the y-axis is number of rows. So each row is each property. So this is actually number of rows, meaning number of the properties. So that's good. And here, the checkbox next to the sort by. So I'm going to check on this one. So now the data is sorted by the y-axis values, meaning number of the properties. Okay, so that's the bar chart is done. Now, the next thing is there are so many neighborhoods. Okay, how many neighborhoods we have? I can go back to summary view and then check the neighborhood columns right here. And it turned out there are 195 neighborhoods. And that is actually too many. So I like to kind of limit the number of the values for the neighborhood to, let's say, like a 30. And how are we going to limit? Well, based on the number of rows or number of the properties. So let's say the top 30 neighborhood based on the number of the properties. So that's what we want to do. So in that case, we can go to the x-axis menu, and then there's a limit, the first menu. And then there are a couple of options, condition, top, bottom. In this case, I want to select the top. And then type 30, based on the currently selected Y1 column. And this is actually very convenient because right now the number of the rows is Y1 axis. Later on, like if I assign the price column to the Y1 axis, the chart will automatically detect the change and then limit the 30 neighborhood based on the prices. Okay, so in this case, I'm going to keep this as current Y1 column. If we want to select a specific column, you can change that as well. Okay, and then now here is the 30. So I'm gonna apply, click on apply. So now here, these are the, based on the number of the properties, we are seeing a 30 neighborhood. Okay, so that's good. And then the next one, like what I want to do is that summarize function. So right now, because the number of rows, so obviously like Y1 axis is the number of the rows. So let's say that Williamsburg has 798 properties. But what if like if I change that to price or different columns? So like I want to see like average price for each neighborhood or something. So I'm going to select price here. And then now here it's selecting the SUM, which is sum or total calculation. And then that doesn't really make sense because it's basically like the more the properties, like you tend to have more grand total of the price. So I'm gonna switch to mean or average. Okay, so this is the aggregate function or summarize function. So you can switch between, and it depends which one select. Most of the times you select and that's it, but sometimes you might get a dialogue to enter additional options or something. But in this case, average is selected. Okay, so now what we are looking at is, for example, here, the base side, $966.15 or something. So this is the average price for each property in this neighborhood, which is pretty expensive. But nonetheless, we have these, and these are top 30 based on the price of the average price. Okay, so next thing is, before getting to the next thing, when you click on this, this is kind of a relatively recent features. We have added this like a conditional aggregate functions as well. So for example, let's say like a mean if, meaning like you get, when you select this, you will get the dialogue like this. And then you can build the condition. For example, let's say, I don't know, maybe let's say like a host since or something. And then like you can say like, you know what, like I want to see what are the property, type like a 2020. So that means any properties was hosted since 2020, And then like I want to calculate the average price for each neighborhood. So you can do something, some little bit more complicated calculation as well. But today, for this demo, I'm not going to use mean if. I'm going to just simply do the mean for all the properties and just calculate the mean for each neighborhood. Okay, so that's that. And the next thing I like to do is, which feature we should cover, is a horizontal bar chart. So this one is considered vertical, and its orientation box is right here. So like if I move, click on the horizontal, now the chart is literally the horizontal way. And this makes it easier to read this kind of label on the x-axis text. And then most often, like I face is like right now, this x-axis column name is by default shown as a kind of x-axis title. And that's most of the time it's not necessary. In that case, I can click on this property, chart property. And then here, if you scroll down, like there's the x-axis title, and then you can actually uncheck this show title and click apply. And then now that x-axis title is gone. So this is something that like I use pretty often. Anyway, so next thing I want to do is like, okay, so Bayside and Theater District, whatever, I want to show those values. Let's say here in the Bayside is 966, Theater District is 550. I want to show these values next to the bar. And you can do it again from the property. And then there is a menu as show value on plot. And then this is kind of weird because right now the chart is displayed in a horizontal way, but just imagine this is still like a vertical way. And then like if I set above, that means above each bar. So that what that means, if I click on apply, then those values shown in this case, the right side of the bar. But if you think this chart is vertical display, and the value is actually on top of or above the bar. And then you can change that font size, default to 12. You might want to make it smaller or bigger, or whatever works for you as well. And then this show values if greater than this value means, for example, sometimes these values, there's too many values and you kind of like overlapping each other sometimes. So in that case, you can set, let's say like, I want to show only the values greater than, let's say $300 or something like that. There's some setting as well. Okay, so let's go to the next topic, which is group by color. I'm going to remove this show values on top, just kind of too noisy. So I set the num, okay, here. So next thing I would like to do is I want to use, let's say like this is like a neighborhood, okay? And then I want to see what type of the property is there. So there's something called property type, and that indicates, hey, this property is apartment or hotel or maybe house or something like that. So I want to see like out of these, how many, actually y-axis is the price. I'm going to switch to number of the properties. That makes more sense. So Williamsburg, we have 798 properties. Out of 798, how many of them are apartment, how many of them are house? And I want to see like what type of the property type are more popular in Williamsburg and so on. Okay, so that says I can use the color bracket group by. So this is basically kind of like a divide by whatever the one that you assign. So in this case, I'm going to use property type like this. Okay, so now each color represents each property type. Okay, so obviously like this color, I don't know, like kind of like a light bluish, purplish color, which is apartment. And then this is what we are seeing right here. Okay, and then that's kind of like a dominant. So any neighborhood except this flashing, that's the #1 property type. Okay, and then here, like right-hand side, you can click on it. It's just apartment. If I just one single click, then that disappears. If I click it back, and then it comes back. If I double click on apartment, and then it selects only that particular color or particular, in this case, a property type, and I can double click to bring it back. Sometimes happen is also what you can do is you can zoom in or zoom out. So something like this. And then now like I'm focusing on the particular neighborhood. And then once this happens, you can double click on this white space and then, bring it back to the original zoom. Okay, so couple interaction you can make. And then now at this point, I like to, let's say like we want to change this color or something. So we want to edit this color. So that case here, the color, there's a color and a group. Okay, and if I click on this one, and then not only you can change the color palette, but you can change this color or display name as well. So what that means, for example, you know what, like this apartment, instead of using this like the color that I can't even describe, I want to use this like a light red or something. So if I change that and I click on apply, and then now that particular value is shown as the color that I have just selected. Another thing that happens a lot is here, for example, this apart hotel. Okay, this is, let's say, why don't we just call it hotel? There's a hotel here, and we want to consider these as the same, or maybe like here's a boutique hotel. Hey, let's consider this as a hotel as well. So you can override the display name, the name of the property type value here. So let's say a hotel. And then the boutique hotel, I want to change that to the hotel and so on. And click apply. Then now the hotel is just showing up here. And then all those hotel, apartment hotel, boutique hotel, and the hotel, they have been combined as a hotel. Okay, and if you want to change that color, you can change that as well. And this is a kind of a quick way to access to like sort of like predefine this with the colors. But if you want to use your particular color, then you can click on this like kind of a pencil icon, and then you can select the really particular color or set RGB or a hex code or whatever the color code as well. Okay, so now you set this color. This color thing is actually pretty cool because we have assigned this property type, which is a categorical with a character, but you can assign like a numerical column as well. So let's say, for example, we want to see like what's the price range of the properties are more common in each neighborhood, right? So in that case, I can assign this price column, and it automatically divide this numerical value from the minimum value to max values divided by the 5, so like 5 group starting from 0 to I think the highest is a 10,000 or something. So now like each group has this sort of like 2,000, 2,000, 2,000 range. And then like each group has its own color, sort of from lighter blue to darker blue. And then this one, unfortunately, it looks like all same. I mean, it's almost like most of the stuff is actually from 0 to 2,000. So this probably is very like kind of a biased data. So in this case, what I like to do is here is like a type equal width, right? So this, I can click on this one, the green text, and then again, bring up that same color group setting dialog. And then here, the grouping types right now, the default equal width, and then divided by 5. Equal width meaning so the range is equal among these groups. But I want to change this to equal frequency. What that means is after dividing into 5 groups, there should be the same number of rows, or in this case, same number of the properties are in each group. So to do, like it automatically calculate where should we make the cut. So in this case, $0 to $60, $60 to $90. So each range is not equal, but underlying or behind the scene, number of the properties are pretty much the same. I don't know, in this case, 10,000 rows, right? So divided by 5, probably in each group, we should be having like 2,000 properties. Okay, so here is like divided by like that. Then if I click on apply, and what happened is now like you see like more different colors. Okay, and then here immediately like I can already see like okay, Williamsburg has a sort of like a in this case kind of more expensive properties there. But next one, Bedford Stuyvesant is less expensive properties compared to Williamsburg, and then more lower price properties compared to Williamsburg and so on. So at this point, like, you know what, like I want to focus on this like a high range property. Let's say like when any properties price greater than $200, let's call it like kind of premium, property or something. Okay, and I want to give it a special color. So two ways to do it. One is like you can just change this color to red, and then maybe other color to be like a different color or something. Or there's one feature here is that it says highlight from the color palette, or you can access to from the color menu as well. So if you select the highlight, what it does is like it gives this kind of like a light gray for all of the groups first. Then you can select one by one, like, hey, let's say in this case, this $200 to $10,000 group, I want to set like a special color, in this case, light red or something. And that means whatever the colors that you didn't set, will use this light gray, and then accept the color that you set, accept the group that you set the color for. Okay, in this case, I can click on apply, and then here we can see this like a sort of like a high price property ratio, not ratio, like number of the high price properties. So then you can see, oh, okay, you know what, here the Midtown is almost like a 50% of the properties are, belong to that high price property group. So it depends on each neighborhood, depends on the neighborhood, we have the different sort of like a combination of the ratio. Okay, and then I started using this word ratio because at the end of the day, like I like to see not just now how many properties are in this high price range, but also like I want to see what's the percentage. Let's say like a Midtown, like what's the percentage of the properties are high price, or what is the percentage of the Williamsburg properties belong to high price, and so on. So in that case, wouldn't that be great? Like if we can just expand each bar, or all these 30 bars to the same length, and then shows the ratio of red and then light gray or something. So in that case, we can use something called window calculation. So why we are talking about y-axis. Right now, we are seeing the number of rows. Depend on the values, we see the different lengths of the bars. But we can go to the y-axis menu, and then there's this window calculation, but right underneath, it says quick window calculation. That is the easiest way to use this type of features because it's more like a kind of shortcut. So let's say right now it's a 9 selected, so that means it's not using anything, but we can use something called percent of total. When you select this, then all the bar becomes basically 100%. That's why like all the bars lengths are same because they're all 100%. But out of 100%, what is the percentage or ratio of gray and red? And by seeing this, I can quickly see, okay, Midtown has the highest ratio of the high price properties. And then, for example, here is maybe like, I'm not sure like which one, like East Flatbush or Bushwick. These two are the sort of like lowest in terms of high price properties ratio. Okay. And then you can actually sort it. Right now, the y-axis, no, not sorted. I'm still like sorting based on the number of the values. So it actually didn't work the way like I was expecting. But anyway, so like now you can see, and then like you can see, for example, if you want to select only the red, I just double click on the red in the legend, and you can show only that part as well. I'm going to just double click to bring it back. Okay. So that's a color setting. So the color, you can do a lot of things in that dialog. If you want to know more, you can click on the help, or if you get confused, please send us questions through the chat window. Okay. The next topic is, we have done that, and then 8 and 9, scatter. Let's move on to scatter chart. And then later on, like we're going to visualize the time series data. Okay. So I'm going to create the new chart tab. And then when I click on the chart type, there are 2 scatter. And this might be confusing because what do you mean like no aggregation with aggregation? So let's start with no aggregation. This is a very common way of using scatter chart. Okay, so no aggregation. That means we want to show the original values, or distribution of the original values. Okay, so let's say in this data, there is something called review score rating. Okay, so this is, I think, 1 to 100 or something, and each property is being scored. This is the average of each, maybe let's say 100 guests use this one property. They give, different scores, and then we have the average score of those. Okay, so now here the review score rating, the X axis, and then like Y axis, I'm gonna assign a price, because then we can see the relationship between those two. So my intuitive sense is that, like, okay, higher the score is, should be the more expensive. But is that true? So in this case, I'm not sure. Like, most of the properties, each dot is actually each property, but most of the stuff is kind of like remain staying in this area. But let's say, like, if I limit to this area, then what do we see? It seems like it's sort of like a high score area tend to have the y-axis is the price. So like it seems like there are a higher price properties. So there might be some kind of relationship. But anyway, nonetheless, that is really not the point in this case. Or I can even like uncheck the y-axis to exclude the outliers as well. But anyway, so here, what I wanted to do is this one is basically like we was trying to show the 1,000 dots, even though it says sample size 5,000. You can change that from the property. But basically, like we are seeing the 5,000 dots in this chart. But then sometimes like that's helpful if you want to see the correlation type of the relationship. But sometimes that's too much of the information. So for example, instead of each dot as a property, like what if like we want to visualize property type? What type of the property type is like sorry. Property type it's not that fun actually. I just realized that. How about like a neighborhood, right? So like we've been seeing neighborhood. So let's say like Manhattan property tend to have high score and a high price. Maybe like Brooklyn tend to have like a high score but a lower price. That type of thing. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, can't we just sort of like get the average or mean score and the price for each neighborhood or neighborhood group? Then can we see the relationship among those neighborhoods? Okay, so in order to do, that's where aggregation scatter comes in. So right now, we are not doing any aggregation. Each dot is simply basically each listing or each row, intersection of price and review score. But if I change to with aggregation, and we get only one dot, which doesn't, it's not really helpful. But what is happening here is right now the review score rating price in the sum, but let's change to average. Both of them, I'm going to change that to average. Okay, so then out of 10,000 properties, we're seeing the average score rating and also average price. The intersection of those two, then we have these dots. Okay, that's because we haven't assigned anything to group by, so that's why like we have only one dot. So this is a whole group average, whole entire properties average is showing. But now like if we use assign, let's say neighborhood, let's say like neighborhood or something, then each dot or each circle represent each neighborhood. In this case, this one is a baseline. And it says review score rating 95, this 95.63 is a mean of review score rating. And then the $966.15, that's the average price for this neighborhood. Okay, so then this one is probably like 195 circles or something like that. And then, so we can see sort of like kind of a relationship. Then I can actually assign color, for example, and then to the neighborhood group. Then we can see, is there any difference between the neighborhood group, right? Let's say like, what's the Manhattan compared to Bronx or Brooklyn? And Manhattan, in this case, the green color. and the green color is around here, and it seems like blue color on the red color is kind of like a lower end, which means the price is y-axis, so the height is y-axis, so that means looks like lower range of the price properties are in this like blue, which is Bronx or something. Okay, and then here like we can do one thing. What I like to do here is I want to create a chart kind of like this. Okay, so basically this type of the charts used often, which is I'm going to draw sort of like a medium value line, right? Okay, so the review score rating, the x-axis, I want to draw the line, like a vertical line on the median score. And then do the same thing for the price. I want to draw the line on the median price range. Then that means right-hand side top, that area should be whatever the properties here, or whatever the, in this case, a neighborhood, should be considered as a high price and high review area. And then like left-hand side bottom should be considered low price and then low review score. Okay, and then left-hand side top is like low review score and high price. That's the area definitely that I don't want to go, right? Because like a score is low, but somehow high price. Okay, if for anything, like what I want to go is like a lower price, but a high review score. This is the area that, you know, maybe the nicer properties. Okay, economically nicer property. Okay, so that in order to do, we can draw that reference line, and this reference line is available for like more other, you know, many other charts, including the bar chart as well. But here, I can select the reference line and then median. Okay, so I'm going to draw the reference line to sort of like a vertical, and then I can change the line style to be like a dot, line width to be 2 points. I can change the color as well. And then, but now like I have this is a median line of the review score rating. Median meaning left-hand side and right-hand side should have like a same number of the dots. Okay, and I want to do the same thing for the y-axis and reference line, and then median values, and then dot, and then line width is 2, and I click apply. And then like I have this one here. So like I said, this group is basically high score, high review score, but low price. Okay, so if I don't care about the location, obviously like I care, but if you don't care, then this is actually economically nice property neighborhood. Okay, but anyway, so here it seems like Manhattan, which is green, tend to be more expensive has a more expensive neighborhood, which is probably, if you have ever visited New York, probably you know. And then, but some of that area, like for example here, tend to have what do you call it? Marble Hill or something, or Civic Center. These area has a higher review score, and then this area is like a lower review score. Okay, so this is a scatter with aggregation. Okay, and the next topic I like to do is, I cover this. Oh, one thing I didn't cover is also you can use a size as well. So for example, number of rows, then now let's make it more obvious. I'm gonna make the max size to be like, default is 40, so I'm going to make it to 50 or maybe 60 or something. Okay, so now here is the size of each dot, or in this case, a circle, represents number of the properties. Okay, so now this one has a lot of information. Each circle, the circle can, you can read the score, price, average price, and then the neighborhood group, and the number of the properties. Okay, so next topic is the time series data. So time series data, in this data, we have host since. That means when each property, a given property is being listed on the Airbnb. So I like to see the trend, like, you know, what how those properties being added to the Airbnb website. Okay, so that if I go to the chart view and I click on plus, and then I'm going to use, let's say start with bar chart. And then I'm going to select the host since. And then this is a number of the charts being added, and the number of the properties being added along the timeline. And I can change that to from not the year, maybe like a month or something. And then we will see like more kind of detail. I can change that to quarter. Maybe that might be a more kind of a nice amount of the bars. Okay. And then at this point, the very common question I get is like, okay, so this is a bar chart, that's fine. But I want to also show that another sort of like Y2 axis, and can we set that as a line? So like a kind of combination of the bar chart and line chart. So that you can do is here is Y axis. I'm going to add another one. Let's say like price. So to compare the price and the number of the properties. So then like we can see like how the price has been changed over the years. Okay, so here the price, I'm going to change that to average. Okay, so the problem here is that the average of the price and the number of the properties is sharing the same scale on the Y1 axis. But those should be different things. One is the dollars, one is the count. So I'm going to assign this price to right-hand side called Y2 axis. Okay, and from the menu, there's a Y1, Y2 assignment. And I'm going to click on the assign to Y2. And then now this blue is the Y1, number of rows is using left-hand side, and then the price is using the right-hand side. But this is so hard to understand. So like I want to change this sort of price to be line, and then blue thing to be just our original bar chart. So I'm going to go to the Y2 axis, the second one, and then there is a setting called marker. And if I select the marker, and then this is where you can change the marker between circle, bar, line, line, circle. If I change to line and apply, then like we can see orange line is showing the average price of the properties being added through the years. And then blue bars are actually representing number of the properties being added to Airbnb. So we have those these two things together. Okay. And then, so that's a Y1, Y2, or a combination of the bar and line. And then another thing that I like to do is that I'm going to remove this Y2 thing now, and then change this chart type to line chart. Okay. So this one is like at any given time, for example, here, 2013, October, meaning third quarter, 290 properties being added to Airbnb. Okay, so that's fine. That's fine. But how about at this point, any given time, how many properties are on Airbnb, right? So possibly, most likely, the number of the properties being added more and more. So like any time, like you should have more properties than the previous years, the previous quarters. So I like to do is like a cumulative, accumulate number of the properties at any given time, so that like we can see like how much of the property is being added. We sort of like with that sort of like speed or momentum, right? So that you can actually do is if you want to use something called, again, window calculation. Then previously we used percent of total. In this case, we want to use a cumulative sum. That means, for example, here 2010, right now it's showing a 20. But I want to see like all these numbers combined. What is the value for 2010? Okay, so that's a cumulative sum. So I'm going to select the cumulative sum here. Then the line should be going up because all the numbers keep getting added. Unless like you're going to have like a negative values. So as we expected, the numbers keep going up. Okay, so it looks like the curve is steep and it get a little bit moderate and then got another more like a little bit of jump or something. So we have one line, but can we see, for example, multiple lines, which is basically we use the color. So in this case, how we can group this line, separate into it. So let's say the property type, we saw that property type. So what type of the property is getting added to the Airbnb? And obviously apartments, number one. Second is house, and then like a townhouse and so on. So we have like multiple lines representing the property type. Then like one thing we haven't touched this time is a repeat by. Can we create this chart or for each neighborhood group? Let's say like Manhattan and Brooklyn. and then Bronx and so on. So under the repeat by, I can select the neighborhood group. Then now here, like basically what I'm seeing is I have like 5 different neighborhood group. And then within each chart, what type of the properties are getting added as well. Okay, and then here, same thing. Right now, the color is basically lines divided by property type. But how about the price? This is what we did before. Here, you can assign a numerical and then make sure like the setting right now equal width. Sometimes equal width works, depends on how your data is distributed. But if in this case, I'm going to change the equal frequency, and then we can see like what type of the price range property being added in each neighborhood. In this case, Manhattan, the darker the blue means like a higher price. So the more expensive properties being added in Manhattan, but somehow Brooklyn, not so much, but in rather lower price properties being added in Brooklyn. Okay. So that's the repeat by, and also like assign a numerical values to the color. So you can do a lot of things. Okay. And that's pretty much it. But there's one last thing. So this is, some people might argue, hey, this is not a chart. Well, this is a summarized table. We have similar things, a table and a summarized table and a pivot table. All of them is basically using a table format to show the values. But these are actually under the chart view. So we think this is actually the part of the chart, but by giving the color, this can also is actually a great tool to visualize your data. And that's the part that I like to just cover real quick. So I'm going to click on plus button, and then let's see, here's a pivot table, summarized table, and a summarized table and pivot table, these two summarize the data by using like, let's say like average or total or something. Table doesn't. So it's kind of similar to scatter no aggregation and with aggregation difference. Okay, so like I'm going to use a summarized table. And then how you want to group by, let's say like a similar thing we have been doing with the chart. So like a property type. So these are the group we created. And originally like using the number of rows, but I can show, for example, like let's say price, and then also like review score and so on. And then I can start adding these numbers. And then like, if I want to visualize these numbers with this table format, and then you can actually go from menu, you can do 2 ways. One is formatting, and the other, this is shortcut, visual formatting. Let's say the show bars on background, and then now like based on the value, that bar is being shown, the blue bar is shown. Okay, if I want to customize it, just go to the formatting menu, and then this show bars on the background. And then you know what, like I want to use a different color, and I want to change that column header title, there's like accounts and so on. And then like you can click on apply button, and then you get that different color of the bars. And the same thing, for example, other stuff, you know what, like I want to set the colors, you know, I want to I want to change that to maybe like a text, text color, then you can do that as well. So anyway, so here when you do it, and if anytime like you want to customize it and open the format dialog, and from here, like you can change that to, for example, you know, select a different color palette and so on as well. Okay, so this also like, you know, by using this visual formatting, pivot table, summarized table, and table can be a great data visualization tool as well. Okay. All right, so I think that's it for today. The last one is, so we do this online seminar. I try to do every week, but I haven't been able to do for over the last few weeks. But I'm starting now from today, and then over the next 4 weeks, series of how to use Exploratory. Next week, I'm going to cover the data wrangling. And then you can go to that online seminar page for future schedules, as well as the past seminars recording as well. And also, don't forget going to Learn tab, and then like under that, you can see like how-to tutorials and how-to video. If you want to know like how to use Exploratory, this is actually the best place to go. Okay, And then if you have any information, any question, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is kan@exploratory.io. Or follow our Twitter handle, which is exploratory data. Okay, and with that, I'd like to open the Q&A session.